In the modern world, compliments of Immanuel Kant and kindred ideologues, we are raised to approach the problem of things themselves, res ipsa in Latin, in the element of non reflective sentiment, of raw feelings, the very foundations of our freedom, of our sense of self, are supposed to be inaccessible to reflection. Reason, dialogue, discourse must focus on how things work, tackling the problem of what things are as a function of pragmatics. To speak bluntly, to be is to be measured, to respond to certain rules, laws perhaps, to fit mechanical standards. We abide in a mechanistic universe, even as we seek transcendence in leaps of sentiment, leaps that make our daily life bearable. Well, such is the modern cave, Faustian world in which our sense of self, consciousness as a predicate of a finite being, well, are shut to the problem of things themselves, to the interiority of things as fundamental problem. The inner life is no longer a problem for us. No longer do we investigate it, but rather enjoy, experience, feel it beyond all reasoning. We must give up reason in order to feel authentically. Somewhat of a modernist mantra here, presupposing the fundamental unintelligibility of being. Yet, what is consciousness in itself? Well, we are trained to shun the question. What is freedom in itself? We are raised to abhor the question. Things belong to what is measurable, measurable parameters. Things, well, they're somewhat lost in a measurable grid. Their very essence is defined by it. What is ultimately real in physics? A grid, even as reality for us may be fundamentally personal. Hence the nature-man split that modernity seeks to overcome technologically. But what if finite things, finite beings, do not really belong to any grids, not least of them that of a space-time continuum? What if, prior to being defined extrinsically by laws, things were defined inherently by a consciousness that is no predicate, a thought in itself? Well, transcendence of the finite, of finitude, would, in this case, not entail, by any necessity, the eclipse of consciousness, as modern physics teaches us, after all, but a disclosure of things as ends in themselves, an illumination of the, we could say, the substantive limits of things. What in Aristotle's Greek are the eide, that we naturally desire to encounter. Things in themselves as centers of intelligibility, as places of thought's disclosure, as pivots of illumination. But now, if there is a way leading from our mechanistic cave to a world of perfect intelligibility, how is that way to be spoken of?